Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. Down, get a hold of yourself.
Please let me handle this.
Calm down. Now get back to your seat. I'll take care of this.
Hey guys, I'm Kevin,
I'm Jake.
and this is Movie Matters. It's a new month, and we're talking comedies this month, so episodes might be a little shorter than last month's, that's for sure. But we're talking about Airplane with an exclamation point from 1980. Great movie. I have not seen this movie in forever. Jake, I know you love this movie.
Yeah, I watch it at least once a year usually.
Oh wow, damn, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this movie in probably 15 years, 20 years maybe. Like, I saw it when I was really young. But it's some of our favorite comedy gurus. You got Jim Abrams, who directed it, along with David Zucker and Jerry Zucker. The Zucker brothers, who did Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen, one of our favorite comedies, Jake and I. We love that movie. I am so glad we watched this because, again, I haven't seen it in so long, and I just was laughing my ass off the whole time. However, like an hour in, the movie does drag a little bit. It's like, all right, come on. But it's just gag after gag after gag. And it's like surprisingly really funny and holds up. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of why I've been putting off watching it, because I feel like I thought it would not hold up. And I feel like I didn't even think it was that funny as a kid. But again, I don't really remember it, so that's kind of the like preconceived notion I had with this film, and I'm glad it smashed those perceptions because it's great.
Yeah, it's so funny and like even this has got to be like the 10th time I've seen this, and I still find new jokes like hidden in the movie, which is like a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly like Naked Gun. It's like you laugh and you miss one, and then it begs repeat viewings, which is good. Because that, again, I've said this multiple times on this podcast about how my rating works with movies, and the rewatchability and rewatch value of movies is huge for me. So this movie definitely has good rewatch value. This movie made a ton of money. It revolutionized comedy in 1980 when it came out. It was made for like $3.5 million. Only took about 34 days to make, which makes sense because it's that simple kind of plot where it takes place in the majority of it takes place in one location, being that it is an airplane. Makes sense. It was the fourth highest grossing movie of 1980, and overall, as of like 2002, so a while ago, and this is from IMDb, it's made $171 million on a $3.5 million budget. Like, that's insane. It made about 83 when it came out, 83 million, so it made a ton of money, and obviously made the Zucker brothers kind of more of a household name. Literally in the first 2 days of its theatrical release, it made its entire production back in 2 days.
It's just hilarious.
Yeah. So, what's funny is the directors, Jim Abrams and the Zucker brothers, they had a huge kind of battle with the Directors Guild because they weren't, like, the Directors Guild was like, no, we don't want to credit 3 directors on a film. That's insane. So Jim Abrams legally changed his last name to Abrams and Zuckers in order to ensure credit was given to all 3 directors. Like, and the Directors Guild caved, but that's pretty crazy that he did that. I didn't know that. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. I love how the movie opens. I mean, obviously this movie's a parody movie, just like Naked Gun. It parodies a lot of films. Granted, I haven't seen a lot of these films that it references, because going through kind of the trivia, it talks a lot about the references. but they're old movies that I doubt you've seen, especially if I haven't
Yeah,
seen
like,
them.
I think I know of all of them,
Oh,
but I haven't seen like
Yeah.
most of them. Yeah.
yeah. I'll list a few when I'm going over some of the scenes I like, but yeah, it's we talked about this in Naked Gun, and I think another maybe even Clue with the whole spoof movies and how those aren't really a thing anymore, and Scary Movie was kind of the last of that dying breed. And we've kind of, I feel like we've talked about it and debated whether that genre should make a comeback. Let's talk briefly about that again. What do you think?
Yeah, I like we talked about last time. I think the Scary Movie franchise and it's like several offshoots, I think kind of like
Ruined it.
drove it into the ground.
Yeah.
But like these kind of movies are great when it's like one every like 3 or 4 years, you know? And like we don't need a comedy like this every year or
No.
like 2 every year, you know? So like yeah, I'd like to see this like slapstick kind of comedy genre come back, cuz like I think we talked about this last time we discussed this topic also, but like I don't think either of us can remember the last good comedy that came out, like so it's just like well overdue, I think.
Yeah. I'd argue that Confess Fletch is the best comedy to come out in recent times.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that again, that's kind of a hidden gem that no one knows about.
Right.
Go and
And,
check
like,
out that movie,
I mean,
by
it
the way.
is for sure comedic, but it's
Yeah.
not like comedy first, you know?
Yeah, well, yes and no.
I mean,
I
you could probably argue it, but
I know it. I get what you're trying to say, and I understand and agree with
Yeah.
you. But
like,
yeah,
there's
that-
no mistaking that Airplane is a comedy. And
Exactly.
It's exactly trying to be a comedy. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, agreed. Now I think, yeah, they should come out with a movie like this, but it needs to be. I mean, they are coming out with a Naked Gun reboot with Liam Neeson, and I think that's cool because I'm going to talk about it in this film, in Airplane, how a lot of the actors in this movie were like straight men in Hollywood, like they were just like, you know, very dramatic actors that were always just the straight guy, and in this they kind of flip that script, and they're amazing as comedic talents, and Liam Neeson being in the new Naked Gun is what they're doing for that. Like, you know, Liam Neeson is rarely in comedy, but I think his deadpan delivery will be perfect for that. It ceases to be seen, obviously, we'll and it's hard to replace one of our favorites, the late great Leslie Nielsen, but I think if they do, I think that movie will be the telltale sign if that genre can come back. But it also depends on how much it was made for and how much money it makes at the box office.
Yeah. And I think having Liam Neeson is probably going to be a big hurdle because they're probably paying him an absurd amount of money.
I'm gonna look up. I'm gonna look up the budget if they have it listed.
Yeah, because that's already like, and like the other thing that I think doesn't bode well for a lot of these movies is they throw a absurd amount of money at them, like in recent history, and it just makes it so difficult to like recoup the costs that it kills studio interest in making these kind of movies. Like, these types of comedies need to be made for like dirt cheap, like as cheap as you
Yes.
possibly can. Just have it rely on the jokes, the writing, and the acting. You know, like an Airplane is a great example because it's literally just like 3 sets and all of the action takes place in those 3 sets. Like the like airport control room, the cockpit, and the actual airplane. Like that's all there is, you know?
It's simple.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
And like you don't really care about any of that. Like all of the good shit in this movie are the jokes, and like that's why you're watching it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you're not really watching it for the plot, even though it does have a very simplistic plot of Ted Stryker being, you know, like a PTSD war veteran that, you know, doesn't want to fly a plane, thought he killed his entire like crew and like airmen, and he's trying to win back Elaine, and the movie does finish that arc, which is nice. So it does have a brief little arc and story in it, but other than that, it focuses heavily on the comedy.
Yeah, and like that plot's nice because it does actually drive the movie forward.
Yeah.
But it's not. But it's also like you don't care that much about it. You just want to see what the next gag is going to be.
Yeah.
You know. But it's, you know, it's there. It's a device just to keep the movie from like stalling out, and it does it well. You know.
And that's, in my opinion, that's probably why I thought after an hour I was like, okay, this movie drags a little bit because it's just gag after gag, which is fine. But yeah, I get that.
I think this movie, we've talked about this before also, is that like these really early 80s movies suffer from that 70s, it's got to be really long, you know, kind of thing. It's like this movie's like an hour and 40 minutes, I think.
Way less than that. Hour 28.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought this was a little bit longer, but I mean, it's not that like 120 or less, you know, that like the mid to late 80s is just trying to like churn through audiences in the theater. Like there's still, this is like that coming off of like the golden age of cinema, where it's like if you're not getting a 3-hour movie, you're not getting your money's worth, and you know, like that kind of mentality. So
yeah, the new Hollywood era of the 70s.
Yeah.
So I real quick to kind of sideline, going back to Naked Gun, the new one. It's supposed to come out August 1st. Like that's kind of soon. Like we should be seeing a trailer any day now, I feel like.
I'm surprised we haven't yet.
I know. So hopefully we'll see one soon. Also, no budget information. Also, it says the runtime is 1 hour and 25 minutes.
Perfect.
So, yeah, I like how this movie opens with the Jaws theme. Again, kind of a parody with the fin, and then the plane shoots up. I like that. Elmer Bernstein composed the score for this. He also did Ghostbusters, which we just recently did. He's iconic. It's funny because he's an iconic composer, film composer, and the producers and the directors were like, hey, like, we want this score to actually kind of suck. They're like, it needs to be B-movie like, and because that's what makes it funny. Yeah. And you can tell that has that B-movie-esque score with like the romance theme. You know, that's like the telltale sign for me.
It's all very like cliched. Yeah. You know, and like, it really helps sell like that this really is like a parody movie, you know, at its core.
Yeah, I like the argument over the PA with the man and the woman. And like
about the red zone and the white zone.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he's like, "Yeah, you should have gotten an abortion." Basically, I was like, "Whoa!" Like that was crazy. So the producers actually hired the same voice artist who made the white zone and red zone at LAX, and they were actually married in real life, which is really funny and adds to the comedy of it. So I thought that was pretty interesting and pretty funny. There's the iconic shot of the airplane getting misguided with the, I want to say glow sticks. I don't know exactly the proper aviation term. I apologize for people who know what they are. And the plane crashes into the glass. That is iconic. Apparently that was like $40,000 to do that, which is crazy at that time. Also a lot of airplane pilots have like related to that scene because they've almost done it by accident. Then they've gotten like super close to having their nose touch the glass. I mean, they don't really do it anymore. They keep it far away, but that's crazy to think. Reading that trivia. I love the gag of the guy, like the mechanic cleaning the windshield, and then he opens the hood and it's like all bent out of shape, and then he falls. I love that. I like that he just there's like a guy charging the pilot's credit card.
Yeah.
It's just funny to think of like that's how credit cards were charged back in the day. They basically just did like a carbon or like a copy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. There's a very, I don't know if you noticed it, but like the captain Captain Over, when he's like looking at magazines, there's like a whacking material section, and it's all like porno magazines. And this movie's rated PG, and there's breasts visible in that shot, and then there's breasts when everyone goes crazy, and we'll get to that. But I can't believe this movie's PG, and like I totally forgot about that.
Yeah,
and I know you've mentioned it. I feel like.
Yeah, because like, I want to say me and my brothers watched this like with my parents when we were like probably too young to watch this movie, and
yeah,
I remember my dad being like, "I did not remember that."
Yeah, that scene is
because like
out of nowhere.
It's easy to forget that PG in 1980 did not mean the same thing as it does today.
Yeah. And that's kind of a theme running through this podcast of just like, how is this rated this? And how many things can they get away with for this rating?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. I love the like smoking, no smoking. And it's like, what does it say? Like, El Noah, you a smoko. And they're like, put on the deceit belts. Like stuff like that was just, I laughed out loud to that. There's a lot of laugh out loud moments in this. Like I like the whole, how the pilots like Roger, Vector, Over, Clearance, Clarence, you know, that I loved all that. Just all the names are goofy as hell in this movie. And I love the Ted Stryker being like, oh yeah, I was in Drambuie at Magumba Bar or whatever. It's just like, what? Like, it's clearly made up, and it's just the writers having a blast just being like, let's just make goofy ass shit up.
Well, like, I mean, this is obviously 1980, and you know, he keeps talking about the war, which like the most recent war is Vietnam, but all the footage that they show is from like World War I, like biplanes like crashing and stuff. So like it's just so goofy and like nonsensical. It's so funny.
I think one of my favorite gags is where you have James Hong, who is he was in Big Trouble in Little China. He's the noodle shop guy in Kung Fu Panda. I think he's the noodle shop guy, but he's in Kung Fu Panda.
I think he's the host in the Seinfeld episode at the Chinese restaurant too. Yes.
Great episode. I love him that he's just like Ted Stryker's just like pouring his heart out about it, and he's just a Japanese general sitting next to him, and then it just comes back and he's like, I hope I'm not boring you to death, and it shows him taking the sword and killing himself. I laugh pretty hard at that.
The people killing themselves while he's telling his story is the best gag in the whole movie. It's so funny.
The guy who's about to like light himself on fire, and he's just the match and the intensity of do I do it? Do I not do it?
The old lady is the first one, and like you just like zoom out of his face as he's finishing the story to see her feet dangling next to him. So good. So funny.
Yeah. I love that. The whole scene of how Ted and Elaine met is amazing, and the two girls just bar fighting,
Yeah,
which
like
is
Girl Scouts that are clearly like 30-year-olds.
yeah, and they have this intense fight, and it's like really impressive actually, and like really well choreographed.
Yeah.
And then she goes headfirst into the jukebox, and then the Bee Gees' "Staying Alive" comes on, and it's a parody of "Staying Alive." You know, Saturday Night Fever with John Travolta. That whole scene's hilarious. He's dancing, he's juggling. There's all kinds of funny gags with that.
He throws her in the air and waits like 5 minutes to catch her.
Yeah. It's great. It's so good. And like, I love the guy that gets stabbed while Elaine's dancing with him, and he's like pointing to his back, and she's like kind of mimicking the dance moves. Like that. Again, there's so many laugh out loud moments in this movie, and again, I was very surprised by that for this movie being 45 years old.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I think like this movie's so, I think, timeless because the gags aren't really rooted in anything like specific, you know? Like,
yeah,
they're not tied to the time. They're not tied to like, you know, like very specific cultural references or stuff. Like the things that they do parody are like things that like everybody will always know, like Jaws, you know, or like Disco, you know?
Yeah.
Like, even though Disco was like super shitty, I think everyone's gonna always remember that Disco was super shitty.
Yeah. I mean, they even like run into the tower that's like, oh, disco, like, you know, the disco jams and disco radio, and they run over the tower and it's like, nope, it's dead.
Yeah.
I love the pilot, Captain Over. He's great. I love when he's talking to the little kid and he's like, you ever seen a grown man naked? Just so
like
random, so
Gladiator
inappropriate.
movies.
Yeah. So he's like, you ever seen the inside of a cockpit? The original line was, you ever seen a grown man's cock? That was the original line. And they're like, no, that's too inappropriate.
Yeah.
I'm probably if they did that, it would not have a PG rating.
Yeah, so probably not.
I think that's the one that would probably get them in trouble.
Line.
Yeah, exactly. Apparently, that's a parody of 0 Hour from the 50s and a television show called Fury in 1955. So that's apparently a parody of that. Again, I've never seen those. Probably don't plan on watching those, to be honest. No disrespect to people who like those. Yeah. I like the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar parody with the kid where he's like, hey, like, it's obvious you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
No,
I like that.
My name is Roger Murdoch. I'm a pilot.
Yeah, so good.
My dad says you don't play defense. Look, kid, I bust my ass every night.
So good. I love the whole heart transplant gag, and the girl is like sick, and then the Randy, the flight attendant lady, serenades the crew with the song, and everyone with the song, and like knocks her IV out, and she's dying, which they show in the trailer, and her facial expressions are actually really, really funny. And like even the mom doesn't really realize it, and then finally realizes it, and is like, oh, she's dying.
I like one of the best parts about the writing in this movie is that they have this whole big setup for that girl to be on the plane just for that IV bag gag. Like
that's
it's
it.
So
then it's done.
So well made, so great. It's like all this setup for like I mean that's like what, like a 1 minute like sequence, you know, or whatever. But like
get the heart jumping on the table.
Yeah, it's so well done, and
it is
like the payoffs on those setups are just so great.
Yeah. Did you rented this, right? Since you're like, it's not. Oh, you bought it?
Yeah, I bought
on
it on
Blu-ray
4K.
or 4K.
Yeah.
Like, did you buy the actual physical copy or the streaming copy?
The physical. The only way to get it was a bundle with Naked Gun and Top Secret.
Yeah, which I've never seen Top Secret.
Neither have I. but I probably will watch it.
Nice. So it was on Pluto TV. I watched about 15 minutes of it, and there was already one commercial, and I said, screw this, I'm renting it.
Yeah.
And I rented it on Amazon. I know you mentioned it.
Yeah, it was like
one time where you're like,
I'm
you
not
can't do commercials.
watching with ads. Yeah.
Yeah. Top Secret is from 1984, so we could add it to the list.
No, we should.
Okay, maybe I'll buy that pack then too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's the same directors, of course, obviously. We'll have to add that to the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love the actors in this, especially since like Robert Stack, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, and Leslie Nielsen all had a reputation for playing no nonsense straight characters, and it just makes it even funnier in this movie because of like knowing that and the audience knowing that. So I think they did a really good job. Also, this was Leslie Nielsen's first comedic role. So he's
like easily like
the best part,
the best highlight in the entire movie. He's so good.
He was worried about getting like elderly grandfather roles and like dramatic roles, and this actually led to him getting a whole new career, especially with The Naked Gun. So the Naked Gun trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love I know this is earlier in the film, but like the smoking ticket is really funny. It's like smoking or non-smoking, and his ticket's just always smoking. I love that. I love the autopilot, the blow-up doll.
Yeah.
And what's funny is if you look in the credits on IMDb, there is a credit for Otto, which is really funny. And I like when they're like, "Oh yeah, you got to manually inflate him," and it looks like she's blowing him, which is
yeah,
a pun in and of itself. And then they're both smoking a cigarette after.
And Leslie Nielsen walks in on, and he's like,
"Yeah,"
and just leaves the room.
Yeah, I love. There's one part that I laughed probably one of the hardest for the scene, and it's when I think the plane is starting to kind of go crazy, and Leslie Nielsen is like giving a woman like a vaginal inspection or like a pap smear.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what the hell is going on? It's just so random.
Yeah.
It's just like, what?
Yeah.
I laughed pretty hard at that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny.
That and the I just wanted to say, good luck. We're counting on you.
Yeah, it does it 3 times. And it's like the plane's crashing,
more
basically.
and more, hectic.
Yeah. And then they've already landed and it's over. And he comes back and does it again. Yeah, so good. Yeah, and the whole Shirley gag where he's like, Shirley, you can't be serious. It's like, I am serious. And don't call me Shirley. So good.
One of the best delivered lines in all of cinema history.
Yeah, so good. The whole scene where the woman is panicking and everyone's slapping her is also hysterical. Again, there's so many great parts in this movie, but I think that might, I don't know if that's the top. That actually might be the best part of the movie, is when there's just a line of people slapping her. And like, apparently Leslie Nielsen slapped her the second time he slaps her when he's like kind of getting pulled away. He actually hit her by accident, and he apologized. But the woman who's getting abused in that scene she actually suggested that, because it's a parody of a movie. And she's like, oh, I think it'd be hilarious if everyone's just slapping me. And they were like, the directors were like, that's a little aggressive. Like, are you sure you're going to be up for that kind of abuse? And she's like, yeah, just try it. And they got it on the first take of everyone doing that. And they also added the ideas of having, the people waiting with boxing gloves and like the gun. I love the nun that's hitting her. Like, it's just so funny and so good.
Well, and that lady also has one of the like low-key funnier gags where like her husband's like, I will have a second cup, and she's like, he never has a second cup of coffee at home. And then like when he starts vomiting, he's like, he never vomits at home.
Like out loud commentary of her.
Yeah.
That's funny. Towards the end of the movie, there's a really good cameo from it's I wouldn't say it's really good. There's a cameo from Mike Ehrmantraut, Jonathan Banks, as the air traffic controller
Oh, really?
from Breaking Bad.
Huh. I missed that.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. What's funny is like I forgot he was in a ton of 80s movies. Like he's in Beverly Hills Cop and 48 Hours and all those. Like he was pretty like well known, I think, which is interesting because for our generation really only knows him from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. Yeah, I love the gag with, and I'm blanking on his name. I'm going to get it right now. Lloyd Bridges, Steve, who's always like, "Oh, it's a bad week to stop."
Week
yeah, to stop sniffing glue and to stop drinking and to stop doing all different
Stop
types
doing
of things.
amphetamines.
Yeah, I love that gag. That gag is really funny. What do you think of the like flamboyant assistant in it? I thought he was kind of annoying, to be honest.
By the end, I think it's a little overdone. But
Yeah,
the first few times, it's
a
kind
little
of funny.
try hard. It's a
Yeah.
little try hard.
Yeah.
That's the only like complaint I have with the comedy aspect of it. Yeah, it's a little over the top. but-
Except for when he pulls the plug out of the runway lights.
oh yeah, just
That's
kidding. Yeah.
A great gag.
Yeah. I love the Rex Kramer, the pilot. That's like, I'm the pro. Like, we got to bring in the pro. I love that they have like the stupid rear projection, kind of almost green screen behind them when they're driving, and he's driving like erratically and runs over a bicyclist, and then there's like horses chasing him. I love that. I thought that's super funny.
He also beats the shit out of like 8 hippies in the airport when he's walking in.
And so he was kind of old-ish age doing that role, and he did all that stunt work himself, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because that
It's
scene
so
is
funny.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a really funny movie. I'm surprised it held up as well as it did for me on this viewing. It's been a long week for me, and this was kind of exactly what I needed. So I think it was perfect. Again, it was a little long for me in terms of just the gags getting a little repetitive. Again, at an hour, I was like, okay, this is like, I mean, there's only 25 minutes left, 28 minutes left, and it's like, there's not much left. But
Yeah.
I lost my attention just a little bit around there. But other than that, I mean, it's a great comedy. Again, it revolutionized comedy in the 80s. It's a good movie to start for our comedy month. I know we're doing all these themes. I like doing these themes. You got anything else you want to add, Jake?
No, I mean, it's just, yeah, it's so good. I'm glad that we watched it. I hope everybody liked watching it with us. Because it is like, just, it's such a classic.
Yeah, it is
in the comedy
classic
genre.
Yeah.
And I think it nicely sets the tone for the types of comedies that we're watching this month, because they're all kind of in this like really wacky, like weird kind of category.
Well said. And
so
Jake,
yeah,
I'll give you
excited.
credit. You've picked out all these. So
Yeah, I picked these.
you picked this month. So credit where credit's due, my friend. This is Spinal Tap is next week, which I've never seen. Have you seen it, Jake?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen it, and I know about it, and I love the actors, and it's Rob Reiner, and so I'm looking forward to that because I've never seen it, and I love watching movies I've never seen, especially 80s movies, people. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Get ready to laugh because that's what these movies are all about this month. So hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next week.
Yep, see ya.